Welcome, everyone. This is Randall of RiverCity-Media. No interrupt, no opening tonight. We're just going to go straight into it. We got a special guest in about 15 minutes. So Phil and I are going to try to cram in a lot of football in a few minutes space here. But Phil, we got one of what I call one of the best young coaches in North Alabama, if not the area, the whole tri-state area. And Luke Pruitt joining us in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, he is an outstanding football player, also an outstanding person. When we talked to him, he was on his way back doing volunteer work. He's got something going on all the time. I don't see how he has time to sleep at night as much as he has going. But yeah, he picked up his 40th win in the football game Friday night against Tanner. They were in the semifinals last year. If they win Friday night, they're in the semifinals again. So, he has done an outstanding job, and it's going to be great to hear from him once again. Talk about the progress of the team and what we're going to see coming up when they play Tuscaloosa Academy Friday night for an opportunity to go back to the semifinals.
At Tuscaloosa Academy. That's a big at Tuscaloosa. They're going to have to play well down there.
It's at Pisgah.
Is it Pisgah?
It's at Pisgah.
I thought it was at Pisgah, but
now they will have to, no matter what happens in the next round, they'll have to travel. But this one is at Pisgah.
The Alabama State Athletic Association has it wrong. Then it says it's at TA. So, all right. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But let's run over, and we do not have good news from our friends down in North Georgia. But let's run through some of North Georgia and what's happening. And a couple of teams that I had some hope for kind of went down this week, and North Georgia is basically eliminated, Phil. Nice run to the second round for a couple of teams, but like Dalton in 5A runs into Creekside, who may be one of the top 10 public schools in the All-Nation. So it was a nice run to Dalton. Not really expected, but they fall to Creekside 49-24.
Yeah, it gets tough. I mean, the schools are just so many bigger schools. When you start traveling, especially south, you get down around the Atlanta area. You know how good the football talent is in the state of Alabama, and it is really marquee out there in the state of Georgia. I mean, because everybody's Tennessee's in there recruiting, Georgia's in there recruiting, Auburn's in there recruiting, Florida's in there recruiting, and Alabama's in there recruiting. So there's tons of football talent. So, when you get down Atlanta and south, man, there is some outstanding football players and football teams.
A couple of teams a little farther south. I'll put it this way. I consider them in our area. Not really our Chattanooga demographic, but Carrollton did beat Valdosta 45-28 and Rome over Langston Hughes 42-14. Kind of a couple of teams as you head south. You start getting around that Atlanta area. Cartersville 29-9 over East. They are. Do you call them Chattanooga area or you call them Atlanta area?
Well, really, I don't know if you really call Rome the Chattanooga area, Cartersville Chattanooga area, but down here where I'm at, you just go east.
Yeah.
And so really, if you were covering, say, if I was covering North Alabama, Rome and Cartersville would be kind of, and Coosa and all those schools would kind of be in our coverage area. But, you kind of cut it off at LFO and Lafayette. When you're in Murray County and those schools, you kind of cut it off in North Georgia when you're considering the Chattanooga area.
Yes. Yeah.
So it has to do with demographics. When you get down here where I'm at, you're going to, and you even can throw in Pepperell. Because, I can remember years ago when Pepperell was really good down in Georgia, I could pick up their games on Friday nights when they were in the playoffs, when they had their big run in Georgia. I could pick up their games on radio when I lived up on the mountain.
Right.
So, from here, Rome is not far at all.
Hit a couple other scores. Fellowship Christian, one of those private schools, over North Mary, 63-14. Rockmart, another one of those schools that's just kind of a little bit out of the Chattanooga area, but they're still alive. Rockmart 56-14. Bowden 28-23 over Greene County. Commerce over Dade County 34-14. Dade County might have been the best sub 500 football team in the state.
Oh, no doubt about it, because Commerce has got a great program. I know they beat Gordon Lee one year when Gordon Lee was like 10-1 going into the playoffs about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So Commerce is very good year in and year out. Yeah, Dade County had an outstanding year. You won't look at it as saying they had an outstanding year in wins, but they had an outstanding football team.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil, we will continue with the Carrollton and the Romes to update them as they move ahead. But really, the teams local to Chattanooga, not a lot of power in North Georgia this year. Seems like it was a very average year for that Ringo LFO heritage where most of the power lies.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as good. You know, most of them went down the first year. Of course, you know, you're going to hit Trine. Trine had a great year. They were probably the exception of the rule in North Georgia this year. They had an outstanding football season. But yeah, everybody else kind of sort of had I would call average years. You know, that 6, 4, 7, and 3 type years. Not very big. We didn't have really anybody that jumped out at you other than Trine had those 10-0 and 9-1 seasons.
You know, just to jump over to Carrollton and Rome, this next round for them is really, and I don't have their opponents in front of me, but both of them are below Atlanta, and you kind of start getting those South Georgia schools at this point in the third round, and it really is the South Georgia in the bigger schools. When you get around Atlanta, it's just a different level of athlete. You know, to say it nice, Bill. When you start talking about Creekside and places like that, or
well, they have such a big area to draw from because most of those schools are big schools.
Yeah,
you know, very big schools, and some of them hadn't even been around a whole lot of years. But they're in such big, you know, big territories. Like over here in Huntsville, you got Bob Jones and James Clements. Well, when they built the James Clements School, Bob Jones and James Clements ended up being huge schools, you know, and lots of kids playing different athletics. And so that's the way it is in Georgia. They'll build a school over there. Dadgum, you don't take away from any other school. And then they'll immediately be good in football.
Yeah, and we see that in Tennessee. It's took some time, but you now see Walker Valley stepping in that ring with Bradley and Cleveland and really stepping themselves up.
Yeah, definitely. Walker Valley's been the big surprise. You know, well, they got to the first round. They won one. Okay, let's see what happens. But, you know, they have really come together. You know, at the first part of the year, you know, they just kept winning. And it wasn't by any kind of impressive style, but now that they've got to the playoffs, they've still been winning those type of games, finding a way to win.
Yeah, totally. And I like to see when we get to Tennessee, we got some exciting stuff. And you're talking about maybe some schools around here that are getting back to that level where they're state contenders. Two very interesting jobs open in Chattanooga. I'd like to get your comment on that before we bring Coach Pruitt in. Saudi Daisy's open and Signal Mountain's open. Two schools that at times have been superpowers in football.
Yeah, and they have Saudi. You know, Saudi's a pretty good job. You know, traditionally, that they're not good year in and year out, but at times, you know, they'll make that run where they'll have 2 or 3 seasons where they're really good. And of course, Signal Mountain's in an area where, you know, they can kind of afford to pay folks. It's a job that opens that's probably going to pay real well. They've got great support up there on that mountain, and But, you know, the thing is, you know, they haven't been very successful lately. Of course, the coach stepped down. He's been there, about 6 years now?
7 years. Coach Robertson, good guy. I knew coaching.
Yeah,
I knew Coach.
7 years, and I guess it's just time.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, Coach had been stuck in that shadow of Bill Price, and everybody knows about the things associated with Bill Price. There was some TSSAA sanctions levied on him, but Coach could never get past that 5-5, 6-4. One of the things I think affected Signal Mountain was being shipped to Chattanooga and breaking up that 3A region that was the Sequatchie Valley, which they played in it when they were winning state titles and going a long ways. Um, you know, I have some heartache in it that Signal Mountain and Sequatchie County are as a crow flies, less than 10 miles apart, and they don't play.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then too, you got to look at Signal Mountain. When Signal Mountain was having their run, Red Bank wasn't very good.
That is true.
And that happens a lot. But see, now that Red Bank got back on the map again and got back going, because Red Bank had some very poor years there for a while. But now that they've kind of got back and settled in, those border kids are going to go to who's winning. So, that got Red Bank back to being elite again. Of course, they weren't as good this year, but they have been good recently. And so, that kind of hurts Signal Mountain too, because, when I went to school up there wasn't a Signal Mountain high school.
No.
Signal Mountain was a middle school. We played them in junior high, and then those kids came to Red Bank. They were the feeder schools for Red Bank. Most of them came down and went to Red Bank. So, times have changed just a little bit now.
And one score over North Carolina, closing out our North Carolina representation. Murphy goes down to Mount Airy 64-26. Phil, I'm going to run just our classic stolen commercial from Bear Bryant here. I love this commercial, though. It's Golden Flakes. And I don't know where I got it from, but folks seem to respond to it every time I run it. That way we'll get Coach Pruitt on, and we'll have him back in about 30 seconds from now.
A strong football team doesn't just happen by accident. It takes hard work and know-how, like knowing how to throw a football. The great taste and freshness of Golden Flake snack treats doesn't just happen either, like Golden Flake corn chips. It takes Golden Flake's special blend of corn to give the Golden Flake corn chips their great tasting flavor, and Golden Flake's fast delivery to make sure that corn chips are crunching fresh every time. Or take the Golden Flake cheese curls. They are just cheesy enough with a perfect crunch on every bite. Just as there's more than one way to throw a football, there's more than one way to satisfy a hungry appetite. That's why Golden Flake has a team of snack treats to make sure they have the snack treat that will satisfy you. Buy Golden Flake. And remember, the Tide develops the know-how when it comes to football, but Golden Flake has the know-how when it comes to snack treats.
Just now. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Phil Harris, Randall Cunningham, along with Coach Luke Pruitt. Coach Pruitt, welcome back to the program. It's always a joy to have you here.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for having me.
Phil, you're the North Alabama guy. You know a little bit more about what's going on down there than I do. So why don't you fire off some questions to Coach Pruitt?
Well, I don't know if I know as much as you think I do, but I kind of fight my way through it anyway.
Well, we all know you fake it.
Well, Coach, first off, congratulations winning in the second round. It's round number 3. And I tell these people all the time because, when I played, we went to the playoffs. And the greatest week to have to practice is Thanksgiving week. There's just something special about it.
You're absolutely right. I actually talked to the guys today about it, told them not to take it for granted because, we've been fortunate to do it the last 2 years. Normally it's a semifinal round. This year, because how the fall practice started, it was the third round. But I told our guys that, not to take it for granted because it's a special opportunity that most teams don't have that privilege. They're all playing basketball now. And just kind of soak it in this week and everything leading up to the ball game.
Yeah, definitely. So, because I can remember on Thanksgiving, of course, we had to practice Thanksgiving Day. But
right.
We had dinner. You had that on your mind. Hey, we got a football game the next day. So you're excited, but then you get around all your family and friends and whomever you have Thanksgiving with, and they're more excited than you are. And you kind of sort of feed off of that because, it's like, hey, we got a game tomorrow, but these people are loving it more than even we do. Because you'll get to see a lot more family this week than you normally do.
Right. That's something you get the family gatherings that you don't normally have. You may not see some of your family, aunts and uncles, whoever it may be, but there is a ball game, and that's the topic of conversation around the dinner table, and that's something that's always that special.
Well, Coach, just look back just a little bit, just briefly. Of course, you beat Tanner in the second round of the playoffs. And other than outside of Pisgah, people probably didn't know how good this football team really was. Their quarterback, Carl Parham, an outstanding athlete, an outstanding player. I think going into that game, you guys, if he was going to beat you, you were going to make him throw the football to beat you, because offensively, this team was very good.
You're right. That was the plan going into it. We didn't want to rush him. We were there the week before and watched Lamar County play him. And Lamar County come after him, and he was able to do what he does best, and that's run and get in space and kind of, you want to call it backyard. He was, he was in his comfort zone. So we kind of much rushed him. And we were fortunate enough, he threw it to us a little bit. Our kids did a really good job executing our game plan, and we were able to call 4 turnovers by doing that.
Yeah, definitely. So, of course, you had the same stars of every week. Of course, Mason Holcomb had his naturally threw the ball well. I know when I was listening to it, I don't know his entire stats of the game, but he had thrown for 2 and run for 1 at least in the first half. Of course, y'all created a couple of turnovers, but talk about some of the guys. I know the ones that I know of, especially like Luke Gilbert and Jacob Kirby, Jet Jeffrey, Legion McQuarrie, J.J. Williams, just some huge guys that play huge roles on this football team. Of course, you've got ones that, have their role playing. But, like when I saw the North Sand Mountain game, the little things your kids do, and you'll see a lot of times I notice how Luke Gilbert will be downfield blocking for somebody to make big plays. And that's really what makes your offense go.
You're absolutely right. Our guys do a great job. Talking about our offensive coaches of getting the plans together, and our kids, they're selfless kids. They're excited when somebody else scores, and coach has a saying, if you don't block, you don't get the rock. So those guys do their part, when it's their turn. But you mentioned those. I'll start with Luke. Luke played well. We mixed it up. Wildcat, he didn't have a ton of catches the other night. He had a couple of possession catches. But we played him at Wildcat quarterback, and he has 2 touchdown runs. One of them is about 50 yards. He intercepts 2 balls. One of those is for a touchdown. In the second half, it kind of put it away. He has a huge kickoff return that flips the field. He gets us in the plus territory. So, Luke played really well for us. And Jacob had over 100 yards receiving. He had a 74-yard touchdown reception. He had an interception on a 2-point play. And then Landon, same thing. Landon scored. Played a little defensive line for us. So we're trying to put it any and everybody. How many wide out skilled kids want to go play on the defensive line? And, we went to him and just try to get some more speed. And our D-line coaches, we worked it some a little bit this week, but he said, yes, sir, I'll go. And, he played some, that's just kind of shows the type of character of the kids we have that, they don't care whatever it takes. That's the thing this year. But Jet caught a touchdown pass. He does a really good job at linebacker for us. Some guys that are kind of overlooked a little bit. Kate Duncan has had a phenomenal year at inside linebacker. We kind of move him around. He's a smaller guy as well. But Kate's got close to 80 tackles inside linebacker and going. He never played on special teams last year as a freshman. He was a surprise in the spring. And he had a great fall camp. And he kind of pushed himself into the starting role. And he's had a really, really good year for a kid that hasn't started. And then, Legion hasn't carried it as many times as he had, did last year, but he's caught a bunch of balls out of the backfield, and he scored touchdowns. He's done it different ways, but Friday night he intercepted one. He caused the fumble and recovered it, a drive, and he had about a 70-yard kickoff return. So, those guys, those are skill guys. We were fortunate to get Grant Smith back. Grant was a guy that we lost early in the year to a leg injury. And he came back last week and started on defense for us. Grant going into the season was a 3-year starter on both sides of the ball, played Y for us and played linebackers, played safeties, played nickel. Grant's got a big body, so he allows us to be able to get in multiple defenses without changing our personnel, and that's something we were fortunate to be able to do last week. But that's a lot of the skill guys. I'm sure I left some people out, but up front, J.D. Martin's the senior guy up front on the O-line. He had an ankle injury against Fife. This is the first game he's played since then. So it was good getting him back. But we've had some guys step in his place. JJ's kind of came on. He's made plays. He was disruptive in the run game Friday night against North Jackson a few weeks ago. He intercepted a pass for us. Anytime you get a big man interception, that's a big deal. All those guys love it. And then, JJ plays on the offensive line for us as well. Wes Arnold has played center for us. He's done a really good job, but he's kind of filled in JD's absence on the defensive line, and he's been disruptive the last couple of weeks. And you got guys that Talon Lang, Isaac Griggs, Chad Smith, Alex Flores, those guys are on the offensive and defensive line. Seth Hartline's another one. They do their job, and those guys behind them make plays, and, they're kind of the nameless guys, that the embodiment of offense and defensive linemen. They don't get the credit, but that's just who they are. They do their job. They do what they're supposed to do. Really don't get the credit. We have to brag on them in here when we're watching film, for them to continue to do those things. But that just shows you, they're blue collar, bring their lunch pail every day like they're supposed to, and do what they're supposed to do. But you mentioned it, the little things matter, us all the time, but especially this time of year, because usually you get in the playoffs, the talent level is very similar. So you're looking for any type of advantage or an edge, whether it's film, whatever it may be, but the little things. And Friday night, we were fortunate. We had one turnover, and I'll take that one. It was right before the half. We were trying to stick another one in. We should have took a knee and went to halftime, but I'll take that one. That one's on me. But we've done a really good job taking care of the football, and we've created more turnovers this year, and that's helped us defensively.
Yeah, we were talking about that when I came into the station. They had scored and cut it to 34-12. And then I thought, well, there's a minute left. I wonder if it would try to go down and score here or just take a knee, go in at 12. But then when I saw they were 18 at halftime, I knew something happened that wasn't supposed to. And, of course, that kept them in the football game a little bit. But, that gave them momentum because they had 2 scores for halftime. But your guys, didn't let up. And if you're going to beat a team like that, you've got to, in a sense, this is a kind of a metaphor, you got to stomp on their throat. You can't let them get up and, keep going. You've got to keep them on the ground.
Right. That's, we preached to our guys all week that, they've been down 2 scores in a lot of ball games and won. They were down 2 scores last week. They put up 64 points on Lamar County. Lamar County scored 55. So, we're probably, 300 or 400 yards from our dressing room Friday night from the football field, and the whole way I'm kicking myself because I'm like, you moron! You're up 3 scores, and you let them get to 2 scores here. Yeah. But our kids did a good job the second half responding and overcoming my bad decision there. So the kids kept playing, and like you mentioned, we were able to loose interception the second half when we returned it for a touchdown, kind of kind of put it away a little bit.
Well, Coach, this time of year, I mean, you can, I know you have to practice, you have to work on the other team, you have to work on timing, but, really you're about as good as you're going to get blocking, tackling, and all those things. The biggest thing this time of year, I'm sure, is about timing, and of course, about, working on the other team. But mostly right now, you just want to keep bodies fresh and keep the kids in mentally. And, I guess the biggest thing about practice this time of year is just timing more than anything else.
Absolutely. Like we no longer, we don't bang on our guys anyways, really physical, but, the fresher they are, the healthier they are this time of year, or you are this time of year, you have a great chance. You got to get all you ponies to the show, or whatever you want to call it there. That's something that, it's a mental thing. That's what we tell our guys that, today we met and we had them up here 4 hours, and 2.5 of it was film work. You're like, well, that's long, but, we watch our film from Friday night, and then we start installing and start talking about going into this week's opponent. Normally that would be broken up. We come in the morning and then we come back that afternoon, but since it's Thanksgiving week, and our guys did a great job. We had a great practice today. They're used to the grind. Right now, you can call it whatever, but whatever it takes. If we've got to sit in a 4-hour film session or whatever it may be, that's just what it is. Tomorrow it's going to rain. We can't control that. We've got to make adjustments and get what we can get accomplished tomorrow, so that we know that's coming. There's rain in the forecast, so we just got to do what we've got to do. And like you mentioned, it is about the other team, and it's about not getting anybody nicked up at practice by something. So our scout wideouts run their routes, but they don't go up and contest for the ball. The DBs, play the ball, and vice versa. If we're on defense, if we're on scout D, our DBs will guard them, and then they'll let the wideouts go catch it. Any way we can prevent a collision, we try to do so. So at this point in time, you're trying to get as many guys, your backups, reps, just in case something were to happen, that you have somebody that's actually worked it. It's hard to put a high school kid in a spot that he's never done it, but you got to build your practice plan, build your defense, offense, whatever it is, to where those guys get reps throughout the season that they're ready to go if their number's called.
Yeah, well, that's the good thing about, and everybody tells you you're only as good as your weakest link. And the good thing about, of course, your team gets ahead early, and that's good. A lot of kids gets to play, and you find role players. There's guys that step up that maybe, you see at practice that maybe aren't there, but then in a ball game, the light comes on. I mean, those kids, you have kids that are like that. Because I remember when I played, I was great in practice for a long time, but until the light came on, I was lost in the game. And sometimes kids are vice versa.
Right. There's nothing like game experience, because game speed is faster than practice speed. But you're right. Those young guys, we try to do, try to find them a spot on special teams, or find them, we try to play as many guys as we can play that needs to play, trying to create that depth. But we've been very fortunate this season to be able to empty the bench. And, our freshman running backs got close to 500 yards on about 70 carries in a reserve role. Jackson Smiley is one of our quarterbacks. He's a sophomore. He's got close to 400 or 500 yards passing, and he's thrown like 5 touchdowns, and he's in a reserve role. So it's valuable experience when you're getting game time experience.
Well, Coach, I want to ask you about this. Of course, there's other things, many things I'd like to ask you about. Of course, you was talking about practice. You're out of school this week, so you want to try to keep the kids in routine. But, a 4 or 5 hour day is not bad for them because they're used to being at school anyway. But what I want to ask you about is, you're offensively, I know a lot of times you want to get out to a quick start. Y'all come out, you play fast. Do y'all have a point in the game where you kind of sort of back down and try to slow things down a little bit to control clock?
We try to get as much as we can get before halftime. Early in the year, we've actually called the dogs off when it was out of hand, especially we were getting ready to play 5 right after we were already beat up. We were trying to get them out for, this time of year. But usually if we've got to kick it off, usually it's the after the first drive of the second half. We're going to try to get as many as we can get till halftime, which that's not been the case because it's been out of hand this year. But usually, if we go stick it in after halftime, we'll start emptying the bench. Or if we get a stop on defense, we may let the offense have one drive. So it's really after halftime that we start emptying the bench. But like I mentioned earlier, that we've had some instances this season that we got them out before then, and I'm never going to try to run up the score. I've been on the other side of it. You got 15 through 17-year-old high school kids that don't need to be done that way. So
Amen.
That's kind of our deal, and we want to keep our guys healthy. I couldn't sleep at night if I got somebody that needed to be out of the ball game hurt in a situation like that. Now we do keep it. I get frustrated. Our special teams, we can sub on kickoff, but kickoff return and punt team, it's hard to sub in those. So those guys, I make our starters finish those things out. So, but for the most part, we sub right after halftime.
Randy's going to ask anything?
Yeah, I want to ask Coach a couple of things real fast. Coach, I was talking to some of the South Pittsburgh staff last week, and we were talking about as you advance, it puts more pressure on you and the coaching staff to look at film. When you're playing in your region or your general area, you pretty well know what the teams are going to do. Now, with Tuscaloosa County, our academy, does that put more pressure on yourself and your film crew to look at film prior to the game?
It does. I'll be honest with you. I had not looked at Tuscaloosa Academy until Friday afternoon before we went to play. I'd got a film from another coach. So I just kind of looked over it, kind of had in my mind, what might be. And, we went to Tanner, went and played. Now, back it up before that, I had 7 games broken down at Tanner because I thought they might win. And, it was a shootout, and we were at the game, and I'm thinking, I've got 7 games at Tanner already broken down, and I got 0 of them in County. This is going to be bad. But it does, it's long. I'm actually sitting in front of my computer watching them as we speak, just because I haven't seen them, and try to look at the whole picture. You look at all of it, and then, you make your cut-ups however you want it to do, how you want to do it. So it is hard at this time of the year. It gets long hours, but it's worth every minute of it. You get to advance, and the people around the state getting to play, that number shrinks, and you get to go to that meeting. They start talking about going to your party or group that's going to meet you when you get to Auburn or get to Tuscaloosa or Birmingham. That's pretty special when you get to that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Coach, so
let me ask Coach one more question. It's more of a statement, Coach, and I want you to follow up on it. I've started, after the first time you were on, I was really focused on finding Pisgah information and posting it. A lot of times I have a certain place I'll go for a certain team. But I got an unusual one for Pisgah. The best information in all the articles that I can find come from your lovely wife, and she is my best Pisgah rep. So it's nice to have a family member that is sorting through all the information for me and finding the best articles.
Well, we have great sports and radio people around here. Jason Bowen's our local guy, but she's definitely my number one fan, and she's my biggest supporter. But she's also gives me the most advice. Sometimes I'm not real receptive of it, but she's definitely bought in, and we've had our growing pains with those long nights with the kids, and they're still young, and she does a great job at home, and I can't thank her enough for that. But allowing me to work and do what I need to do. That's like last night. I told her I was in a basketball gym for 5 hours on Saturday. My boys played, and I told her, I said, tomorrow night's going to be a long night. She said, for as long as we win, I don't care. So we had a late night last night, and my coaching staff came in, and that's time away from their families, but whatever it takes at this point of the year, that's what we got to do. And so we're trying to find time to watch film here and there to why we're at home and have the opportunity to be with our family. So that's something that always have to balance it. But yeah, she's my number one fan, and sometimes I get on to her for some of the stuff she puts on there, but she's 100% for me and our guys, and I'm proud that she's the way she is. I tell her she's a little extra every once in a while.
She's a great SID for you, Coach. I know that much. So I appreciate everybody. We've had a huge influx since your first appearance, and I appreciate the Pisgah folks that's come on and joined the site and follow us. It's been a great addition. Phil, back to you, buddy.
Okay, of course, you talked about Jason Bowen. Of course, now you've got Southern Torch since, they lost to since Scottsboro got beat. Now they're covering you guys. That helps because that gives you somebody, if you get all the way to state championship game, you're going to have radio coverage from Southern Torch, and that's a good thing. Any publicity you get is great, Coach. Let's move forward. Let's talk a little before I get you out of here. Let's talk a little bit about Tuscaloosa Academy. I know very little, but I know Pascal Lancaster, their quarterback, very good. This is probably going to be two of the best quarterbacks in Class 2A going at each other. Of course, Mason Holcomb, he's now thrown for, I guess, over 3,000 yards. He's thrown for 30-some-odd touchdowns, run for
I think ours is pretty special as well. But they've got, you mentioned, I don't know if he's 7 or 11, talking about their wideouts. I don't know. Their two outside guys are pretty good, but the quarterback does a really good job of getting the ball where it needs to go. He extends plays by moving in the pocket, and he keeps his eyes down the field. And he has a really strong arm. And he's like 6'1" and weighs like 240, so he's hard to bring down. Usually the first guy doesn't bring him down, but they're definitely pass heavy. So we've got to do a good job. It's going to be a little different than it was last week. We've got to be able to get to the quarterback this week, where last week we didn't. We've got to do a good job there. They've got a pretty good inside linebacker. I'm not sure his name. He's number 5. But
Beaker, I think is his last name.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
They do a good job. They're very similar to us. They play hard, and they're coached up right, and they do what they're supposed to. They're going to be in the right spots, and they make you beat them. That's something that they've been they've created turnovers and stuff, but was talking about Coach Wright. I've known Coach Wright for probably 20 years. He was with Jeremy at West Alabama as a videographer, I think. And then he was a GA when I went to Jacksonville. And his younger brother, Jody, me and him lived together. We were GAs together. Jody's at University of South Carolina now. So I talked to Josh last night for about an hour, just shooting the bull. About week 5, I told him that either me or him, the others want to eat Thanksgiving dinner at their place. So he called me to see if that was still on the table. So.
Yeah. Well, that'll be a big challenge. And of course, kind of sort of tell you a little bit about Of course, they beat Southeastern last week, 38-6. They beat Red Bay 35-16 in the first round of the playoffs. And so, it's a team that's very familiar. It's going to be about execution. It's going to be, and I'll let you, I know it's just cliche, but, keys to this football game are going to be to play clean, stay away from turnovers, penalties in key situations, and weather may be a factor for us Friday night. And, there hasn't been a factor that much this year, but it could be this week.
You're absolutely right. To add to what you said, we want to win the line of scrimmage. We always want to be the most physical team when we play, and we've got to protect the football, and we've got to cause turnovers. So that's something, win the kicking game. They've got a really good kicker. So we've got to do a good job and win the hidden yardage. Friday night, we won the hidden yardage. We had big returns. They kicked an onside kick that we recovered. They kicked the punt off the ground. I didn't know you could do that. They said it was just a 5-yard penalty. But anyways, and Luke and Legion both had huge returns in the kicking game that gave us really good field position. In our coverage unit, they had playmakers, and we have a senior kicker, Dalton Johnson, who's been injured. He's back, and he's able to kick it where I asked him to, and that's big. Kick it to the one that we want to, and our coverage unit did a really good job in that. But that's something. But you mentioned the weather. We'll prepare. We'll do wet ball drill. We'll prepare for the weather, but that's out of our control. So we tell our kids that we can only control what we can control.
Well, the good thing is, too, Coach, sounds like, other than the minor bumps and bruises, you've got some folks back. You're healthy. You feel like you're playing and running on all cylinders, and that's a huge plus. And, Coach, I want to give you the opportunity to shout out to any of your coaching staff, fans. I know they're going to be there in numbers. This is going to be a great football game and a great atmosphere. And it's so fun. It's so exciting to be playing this time of year.
Well, my coaching staff, I wouldn't trade any of our guys for anyone, and I believe all of them, but one graduated from here. And, we get ready to play our rivals. I don't have to say anything. You listen to the men that's in that room with us, get them ready to go. But, not only are our guys good coaches, but they're good husbands and they're good fathers and they're great men. And I'm happy that my own boys get to be around them. And, some of them got boys at my boys' age, but I wouldn't trade the guys that I have the opportunity to work with for anybody, and it's a special bunch. And we get along really good. I've been places, and not that it's ever been bad working environment, but we get along great, so I'm fortunate to get to work with the guys that I work with. And our fans last week, we had an hour and a half road trip, and we had more fans in the stands than they did. Our kids fed off that. And, so that's something that our community supports us. It doesn't matter what we're playing, what sport it is. Our community shows up and shows out all the time. And, I'm fortunate to be able to work here and live in this community, and our kids are growing up here as well. So, I think it's a special place here.
Yeah, you just talk about the fans traveling, and where I kind of sort of thought about that as I was listening to the first part of the ball game. the announcers, the guys that did the ball game last week for Southern Torch, they were commenting on how many Pisgah, it was like Pisgah had a home game almost. So many had traveled, got there early, the stands were full, they were excited. And, and people notice things like that. And like you said, the kids notice it too. You'd be surprised how they'll peer that eye out because, a lot of times you have to kind of joke them a little bit about concentrating because when I played, I was the same way. You still notice things out there and lose a little concentration every once in a while. But the kids do. They feed off that.
You're right. That's, like I said, our fans were there. It was like a home game. There were people, our side was full, right where you come on, both teams enter at the same place. There was a large crowd that kind of, I guess you want to call them the fence standers. There was a large crowd down there close to the concession stand. But, it wasn't, and our kids did, when they got to cheering or whatever, our guys got to, the juices were flowing. So it was a good atmosphere for both teams, but it was really good atmosphere for our guys to be in, especially when we were on the road an hour and a half away.
And being on the road like that, it's tough. But, you build camaraderie that way. Kids get to spend some time together, kind of away from normal. Usually your bus rides are not that far, but here you get a chance for the kids to kind of build relationships with each other. And I know it was a big thrill for them to get to stop at Buc-ee's on the way back, because, everybody likes to stop at Buc-ee's. I don't care who you are.
Right. So we stopped in Scottsboro and watched the new Hunger Games movie, which kind of broke the trip. And then we stopped in Huntsville and ate. And then we stopped at Calhoun and did a walkthrough, which was like right there at the stadium. So we broke it up. You're like, Coach, it's an hour and a half. You broke it up. Well, we did. We, like you said, you get to the second round, have an opportunity to do something hadn't done in school history, advance 2 years in a row to the third round, hopefully further than that. So we kind of rewarded the guys because they came every Monday morning at 6 a.m. and watch film, and they chose to do that instead of having a long, because Mondays can get long. You got to watch the film. You got to get through it. And they chose to come at 6 a.m. And so they were able to do that. And we told them, win or lose, we were going to Buc-ee's, and we had someone in our community that paid for it. But it was like, I think one of the coaches said it was like a family reunion. Everybody in Pisgah stopped at Buc-ee's on the way home.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. And the Buc-ee's staff was great. They opened up a separate register just for us. And, we were able to go out kind of separate from everybody, and we were able to stay together. But, it was a neat thing to be able to do, and those guys will always remember it. So, that's something that we told them afterwards that, our seniors get to wear their red jersey one more time and get to play in Sam Kennemer Stadium. So that's something that we're excited about our seniors being able to do that.
Well, I know, Coach, you played, I played, and the biggest thing is, winning's important. I said I played on the state championship team, and that was great. But to me, the relationships, the memories, and the little things like stopping at Buc-ee's is something you'll tell your grandkids about. And so that's a big thrill for those kids because the most important thing about playing competitive sports is making memories.
Right. That's one of these days, the ball games are going to end. And like you said, the camaraderie, the friendships, the brotherhood that's created in sports. I think football is one of the greatest life lessons there. But those things that's made there. You have the guy. It's kind of every year is a different deal. We break on family. Every deal is a different deal. You have this senior class and this freshman. That's kind of the bookends of both bunches. But we have eighth graders because we have some eighth graders that dress with us because we don't have a ton of numbers for depth purposes. So you kind of get into our middle school, but that every year it changes the dynamics because every year there's it's going to end at different times, and that those seniors are going to walk off that field for the last time, and these guys get to be role models for our guys, for the younger kids, and mentors to them. And, that's something that will help them down the road. And so that's always something that I like about, the football team aspect of it.
Yeah, because all those young kids, they don't, the players it doesn't matter what they say, those younger kids watch them and how they act, and that's how they determine the character of those kids that play at that level. It's like they say, the camera's always rolling. It don't matter if you're on the field, off the field, in the classroom, somebody's watching.
You're right, and you have those teachable moments. Everybody's watching. And, I think, if you're an athlete, it's a privilege, and the spotlight may be on you, good or bad, more so because you are an athlete. It just comes with the territory, and I have two little ones that look up to their guys. So I'm proud that they're in the locker room with them all the time, because I think we have a good bunch of young men that I have the privilege and the opportunity to coach.
Yeah, because one of these days they're going to be dads. There ain't no doubt about it. Well, Coach, if Randy wants to add anything, we'll let you get out of here. And of course, I want to wish you the best of luck Friday night. I've enjoyed, talking with you throughout the year, and I've enjoyed following this football team. I always do. Piz is one of those places that's a special place for me. I got to call the year they got to the state championship when John Kirby was there, and got to do the game with Jim down in Birmingham, and that was a lot of fun following those teams during that time. So, Pisgah's a special place, and it sure would be nice to get at least one more round anyway.
Yes, sir. I hope that one more round, whatever it takes, survive in advance. That's what we're trying to do this week. So, but thank y'all for having me on. I enjoy it. If y'all ain't figured it out, I like to talk. So anytime, I'd be honored to talk to y'all. But thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Coach. We appreciate you taking time, and we'll let you get back to film watching. But I know it's a busy time. We appreciate you making time for us tonight.
Well, thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Coach. Phil, we can't get everybody this time of year, but that's a special man. They'll watch film, give us 30 minutes, and talk about his football team with passion that you want to hear a coach talk about his football team with.
Well, it's good too. Maybe some of the kids will get something out of it too. They can go back and listen, and parents and things like that, and hear Coach pat him on the back, because he has to kind of ride a little bit every once in a while, not let him get complacent. But this is times where he can let the community know, and the kids know, and the coaching staff know, how special it is, and it's special to play this time of year. I've been there. It is. There is no better feeling in the world than to be practicing Thanksgiving week, knowing what's at stake and the challenge that's coming ahead. And because you don't know, a lot of times you go into games, you're going to win a game, but when you get this time of year, you have no clue, and you just have to go out and play with passion and play your best and hope the luck falls your way. And that's just what it takes, and a lot of times you make your own luck, and that's by executing.
Phil, we realize how special this is. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 30 years, and I think I've personally called maybe 5 third round games, 3 semifinals, and 2 state finals in 30 years. And that's with good football teams. I've been blessed to always have good football teams around me.
Yeah, and I'll tell you how important. It's important because, on our scoreboard show last week on WQSB, we had 6 coaches on.
Yeah.
3 of them we touched base with. The other 3 called and wanted to know if it was okay if they could call and be on.
Oh, absolutely.
So that just goes to show you how important it is, because last week there was a lot of teams that were traveling from far away, like Pisgah was coming back from the other side of Huntsville. So, people's interested. They want to hear this kind of stuff. The scores came in quick. We got our scores like just a little bit after 10. So we needed time to kill. So it was great that we had so many coaches on. But it just goes to show you how important high school football is in the state of Alabama, because it's so community driven.
Yeah, and I'm involved with the Sylvania program as far as doing their post game show or their pregame post game show. What we really want to do here is expand this and give Coach Pruitt and give Coach Roberts and give everybody a more frequent opportunity. And I think we've got a plan to do that, Phil. And and coaches love to talk about their kids, and parents love to hear about it, and media loves to follow it. So our goal here, you and I have talked about, is to be able to expand and give those coaches opportunities. And maybe next year we can have a show where we have 4 or 5 coaches on every week, and 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there. So
yeah, and I think what kind of course we had to touch base on the game from last week with Coach Pruitt, and had to do a little bit of a preview of what they're going to see this week. But a lot of the coaches, they want they kind of want to get away from those kind of questions. They want to talk about life a little bit. And and I think they enjoy that part of it because it makes them think and makes them spread the wealth rather than it be just about football games.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had the privilege too to have several players on from other schools. I'd love to get next year moving forward, maybe have a couple of Pisgah players on here and move forward with having a weekly show where we can feature around. But stay with us and we'll get there. But, Phil, we've got, and again, I want to thank Coach Pruitt. And I want to thank Coach Pruitt's wife because she does send me every article that I just look on her feed, and that's where I find my Pisgah articles. So she does a great job representing that whole community. It's just not articles about her husband or the football team. It's articles about the basketball team, the volleyball team, and it's nice that we were able to get some stuff on RiverCity-Media. If you're not a follower, we have articles up all the time about all of the surrounding area high school teams. So go over there and read some articles. And it's nothing I'm writing. It's all articles out there. We just group them together in one central place, or you can breeze through several of them very fastly.
Maybe as time goes on, if my time permits, especially when you get during basketball season, you don't get a whole lot coming out for basketball season. Even scores.
Yeah.
So the more around here in Jackson, DeKalb County is huge basketball. Huge basketball. I mean, you think football's big, basketball's huge too, especially girls basketball. It's unreal. Softball, volleyball, all sports have become huge around this area. And so, and there's a lot of following for it. Maybe if we can get into basketball, give more updated scores, and, let everybody know what's going on to help, because, we've got a couple of newspaper sources, the Scottsboro Sentinel, Jason Bowen does a great job. Fort Payne has some coverage. WEIS, I get a little information off of them. They'll post things. Every once in a while, I saw where the Collinsville's boys and girls beat Galesville Friday. Valleyhead's boys and girls plays Galesville tonight. So there's a lot of basketball going around that people's really interested in. And I think if we got the ball rolling on that, maybe have a coach every once in a while. And if we could get scores sent to us, it would be nice. Of course, the biggest thing is it's hard to depend on coaches for scores. You have to find people that are linked to the teams that have kids playing. And they're the ones that will send you scores.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Phil, we're going to try to get through Tennessee in about 15 minutes here. Not a lot going on, but a lot of big things going on in Tennessee.
Yeah, well, and then we'll try to hit Alabama. I'll just do what the North scores were last week, and then try to hit who plays who in the north part, so it'll keep it real short. Because right now it's important in the southern schools, but right now you got to win the North Championship before you can worry about the southern part of the bracket.
And we'll do the same with Tennessee. We'll just put the scores that are pertinent to our coverage area, and let's start with let's do Tennessee, and then we'll do Alabama. How about that?
That'll work.
Let's start in 1A. A team that I think is on a mission. Gordonsville had eliminated them last year, and South Pittsburgh rolls over Gordonsville without the Auburn commit. Was suspended for one game. South Pittsburgh 48, Gordonsville 7, and I think South Pittsburgh now they play Oliver Springs, and I don't know that Oliver Springs can compete with them, Phil.
It's going to be hard. This team is just dominating. Like you talked about, this team might be good enough to win the 4A state championship. You don't know. They're that good. But, it's amazing how you got that elite of players, but how you keep them focused, concentrating, and intense against opponents you're better than, but somehow, some way, they're able to challenge those kids to give their best. And, they probably don't have many mental lapses, because it's easy to get complacent when you're beating people soundly.
Absolutely. And, I talked to Coach Gilly offline the other night, and we addressed that, and he was like, especially with this being the group that eliminated them last year, I think they were very focused on Gordonsville, and I don't think they had to rally too much to get their attention there.
And I guess too, maturity of a football team says
Absolutely.
A lot of things too. When you got a bunch of upperclassmen playing, they hold everybody accountable. If you're not doing your job, you're going to get called out, because this, when you've got a lot of upper class players, this is their last run, and they do not want somebody to tear them down. So, and that's the way it was when I played. We had 13 seniors on it, 12 seniors on my team, and everybody was accountable. You might be a senior, but you might get your hind end chewed out too. So, everybody was accountable, and it wasn't personal. Never was personal. You left it, you moved on to the next play. But if you got called for holding in a key situation, you was going to get your hind end out. And it wasn't going to be by the coach. It was going to be everybody on the football team.
Absolutely. And that's what it takes this time of year. Phil, East Robertson advanced. They kind of eliminated everyone in their area, South Pittsburgh. So East Robertson in the second in 2A seems to be the power. But I want to jump ahead to 3A, where undefeated Meigs County falls to, I think, a very good Giles County team. Giles County lost a couple of games early in the year, only played 9 games. So came into that game, I think their record was 9-2. Meigs County 12-0, and just handled them, Phil, 35-14. And I know Meigs County felt very good about it, but Giles County has kind of just run that 3A, this east-south area of the state. But now Giles County, they draw the beast, and it's the beast that you all got to slay in 3A, and that's Alcoa.
Yeah, that's never an easy task. But yeah, Giles County's done a great job. Of course, their level of competition is pretty darn good too. But it is tough to beat Alcoa. Alcoa is one of those schools that just year in, year out just dominates, and you're always going to be wondering where they're at, because you're going to get them at some point. But you got to look at it this way: if you're going to be the best, you got to beat the best, and Alcoa is the one you got to beat.
Absolutely. Now, Phil, we'll jump up to 5A locally, and I think this is the team that surprised a lot of people. Walker Valley 24, Clinton 20. Walker Valley moves on to that semifinals to play West.
They've never been in this position before, but it's strange. I guess they're young enough and green enough in the playoff syndicate that they don't know to be nervous. They don't know that they're not supposed to win. They just show up and play. And sometimes that's a good thing. I mean, and they haven't won by big scores, but they've just been able to find a way. So evidently that tells you that's a well-coached, a well-knit group. Because when you win games like 24-20, you've got to make things happen, and things have to go your way. Call it luck, call it whatever you want to. But, evidently this is a solid football team.
And got the hands full this week. Kind of Knox West quietly has taken over maybe that best team in Knoxville title lately, Phil. So, Walker Valley goes up to Knox West and a chance to get to the state finals here in Chattanooga.
Yeah, they're playing with house money, though. You just go in and roll your hats out there and let's see what happens. Most people probably didn't think they would win last week. I was skeptical win the week before. And here they are in the semifinals. So, who's to say? It's one of those things where you just look around and go, hey, why not us? Somebody's got to win it. Why not us?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Going ahead and getting some of those scores. South Pittsburgh. Done talked about South Pittsburgh. My other pick in the public school, which all my picks are still alive, Phil. Not gonna sneak on myself in my prediction ability here. The Bradley County beats a very, very good Bearden team 35-14 and sets up a matchup with perennial state power Oakland.
Oh, yeah. Oakland's been around for a long time. But this McMinn, this Bradley Central team, you didn't know, they're in kind of the new neck of the woods. I know it's a great football team, and they got everybody's best. Their schedule was tough, and I was wondering how they were going to do in the playoffs, but it seems like they have raised their level of play. And I think some of that is because the teams they've had to play has really challenged them. So it's made them an elite football team. So, you can't count them out. I know Oakland's been great over the years, but Bradley Central's playing good football.
Playing great football, Phil. And I think with all that talent that is on that Bradley Central team, I think some people expected them to lose focus. We've talked about the 3 Power 5 commitments on the backside of that defense, but they just show up, and that's credit to the staff that no matter how vested they are in being committed to big teams, Tennessee, they just showed up and played.
Yeah. Well, you got to look at it. Yeah, you talk about 3 Power 5 players on the defense, but you've got 8 other guys too.
Yeah.
And they may just be role players, but evidently they're doing their job, because you can put 3 Power 5 players on a defense. It will make them a good defense, but it's not going to make them a great defense. So you got to have the other 8 guys to do their job to be an elite football team, and evidently that's happening.
And I think 2 of those 8 are committed to FCS teams. And congratulations to Chattanooga Mocs for making the playoffs. We'd be remiss if we didn't shout that out, Phil.
Oh, yeah, that kind of surprised me when I saw that today. I was like, wow, when they lost the game, was it to Furman?
Yes.
I thought, Lord, they're not going to get in there, even though they're a pretty good football team. But they draw Austin Peay, and if they beat Austin Peay, they get to play Furman in that second round. So that's great to see. Of course, they kind of got hammered by a hot football team Saturday in Alabama, but Alabama needed to make a statement in that game because they're playing for rankings.
Yeah.
So, Alabama was ready for Chattanooga. So, but, Chattanooga's had a great year.
I skipped over 4A because Upperman's not really considered Chattanooga. It's more of a Middle Tennessee team, but it's a team that's in a lot of they play a lot of Chattanooga area schools. They are still undefeated. Phil squeaked by Macon County, a very good Macon County 17-14, and now play Greenville, who won state championship 2 years ago, also undefeated in the semifinals at Greenville. So Upperman got their hands full.
Yeah, that'd be a great game. That's one of them. It'd be nice to go see.
Yeah.
2 fierce opponents like that. That's one of those that they're not going to get a lot of play because of your Alcoas, your Bradley Centrals, and your in schools like that. But that may be the best football game of the whole night.
Absolutely. Let's jump down to private school. Boyd Buchanan clinches a spot in the state finals with a 36-24 win over Davison. And Gary Rankin and his 17 state titles from Alcoa. How funny does it sound to say Gary Rankin and Boyd Buchanan are in the private school state finals?
Yeah, that's unbelievable. No matter where he goes, he's going to win. He just has, some coaches have it. Whatever you want to call it, because they're going to want things their way, and there's a special way they do things. Probably got total control of the football team. There's certain things that they have to be successful, but you can't say he's not a winner because he's won everywhere he's went.
And Phil, the biggest news in Division II 3A, for the first time in the history of Chattanooga, Baylor and McCallie meet at Finley Stadium November the 30th at 7 o'clock for a state title. And I personally will be in the stands, and I will personally be there. And I think 15 to 20,000 other Chattanoogans will be there.
Yeah, everybody better take a shower because they're going to be all on top of each other, and somebody's going to be a stinking. So everybody needs to make sure they take a shower for that game because you're going to be all over the top of each other. That will be a wonderful atmosphere, and that's what that stadium was built for, was for a game like this.
Absolutely, 100%. And Phil, I'm not a McCallie or Baylor graduate. But when I did my top 10 list 2 years ago for one of the local newspapers, number one rivalry was Baylor and McCallie in the Chattanooga area. And now you sit there with that big gold trophy staring you right in the face, and the winner will take it home.
Yeah, well, I know what those programs are about. When I played in junior, now we didn't play Baylor and McCallie at the high school level much at that time when I was playing. But we did in junior high. We played them in tennis. We played them in junior high football. And, and it was great to play programs like that because you played the best.
Yeah.
And I know one year we won the county and we lost to Baylor in overtime. And I think McCallie beat us like 20-0. But we had a great football team, and we challenged and gave both of them all they wanted. But, it's just fun to play against teams like that. I wish more Chattanooga schools could play Baylor and McCallie, but the way it's set up now with the public-private school split, it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. It does. And by the way, Boyd Buchanan plays CPA that same night. And the way it'll run, there'll be the first championship is at 3. Or I think it is 1, 4, and 7. Phil. So private is at 4 at 1, single, double A's at 4, and then they'll cap the night off with Baylor and McCallie. And then the next night, I think it's 2, 4, and 6. No, the 1, 3, and 5 play Friday night, and then 2, 4, and 6 will play Saturday night. So I've already got plans. I already took that day off. South Pittsburgh wins. I'll be there Friday morning at 1 o'clock to watch South Pittsburgh play, and then Thursday night to see Baylor and McCallie, and then Friday night, hopefully to cap my weekend off, Saturday, I'll get to see Bradley Central. And we talked about it since early this year, Phil. Chattanooga 1A, possibly 5A now with this lookout Walker Valley, 6A, 2. We already got the large school, and then of course Boyd Buchanan. You're talking about legitimately Chattanooga walking away with 5 state titles, unheard of.
Yeah, and last year, we had Tyner there, and that was it. So
McCallie won. McCallie won big school too.
The main, but I remember I was up there the day that Tyner played. We didn't go to the game; it was a nasty day, but we were up there that day when Tyner played. This is a golden opportunity to go watch some football and get to see all your area local teams, because that don't happen very often. You probably won't see it like this again.
And I don't know who is playing who, But I can tell you, if all these Chattanooga teams make it, you got an Auburn commit, you got 2 Tennessee commits, you got a Northwestern commit, you got a Tennessee commit at McCallie, you've got an Alabama commit at Baylor. You're talking about the elite of elite high school athlete. A few years ago in the state of Tennessee, we got we were wailed on a little bit. Not as good as Mississippi, not as good as Louisiana, not as good as Alabama, not as good as Georgia. And it was rightfully so. Population of Tennessee was the lowest of all those states. Now with Nashville growing and Chattanooga growing and Knoxville growing, you're starting to see these teams come up to the level of some of the out-of-state teams.
Yeah, because usually most of your elite players come out of the Memphis area.
Yes.
For the most part. But that's changed a lot. There's even some elite kids coming out of Knoxville now.
Yeah.
Usually you'd have a lot of just maybe role players would come out of Knoxville. By their junior, senior year, they would contribute at the higher level. But you're starting to see some good kids come out of Knoxville. But, yeah, the growth in Nashville has helped a lot. And, of course, when you've got these elite schools like Baylor, McCallie, there's players that come here from other states.
Oh, absolutely.
That comes in and plays. So, that's how they draw folks. And that's why when you look around, you'll say, well, why in the world is so-and-so playing IMG Academy? Well, that's how they get people to come, is when you get to take a plane trip up and play somebody up in New Jersey. That's a recruiting tool for Baylor or McCallie when you have to play somebody like that. I know they played that school from Canada one time. And so that's a recruiting tool. So, that's how you get those elite kids, because you get to fly on a plane.
Well,
and that's fun. High school kids don't get to do that very often.
I haven't mentioned it much on here, but, Baylor's starting quarterback is Will Munchamp's oldest son. So, there's people there involved in these programs. Kevin Mawai is a coach over in Middle Tennessee. A friend of mine, Marty Ubadar, grew up with Marty, is the coach at MBA. So, Montgomery Battle Gown Academy. So these programs have stepped up, Phil, and they are the IMG level. So, I'm proud. I'm proud of the public schools, though, here in Chattanooga area. You're talking about 1, 5, and 6A could swing to Chattanooga. And really, you could go. Operman is a Chattanooga area school. It's about an hour and 20 minutes out of Chattanooga.
But they play the region. They're in a region where they play the Valley.
Yeah,
over in the Valley, which is not far away. Because if you're in Sequatchie County, you're not too far from Operman.
Nope. And they play Red Bank on a year, and they play Hickson, and they're the opposite side of that region. So good football. So a lot happening in Alabama too. Not only Pisgah, but the normal suspects are on to the third round, and in Fife and Sylvania, and I think Geraldine won too. Did they not?
Yeah, Geraldine got by. They're playing some good football right now. They won at Gordo in a great game. I got to talk to their principal yesterday. It's good visiting with him, and boy, he told me about how the game went. It's just back and forth, and they pulled that one off. But let's go through right quick. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and give the Northern. I'll give you the Northern scores, and then who plays who. We'll go through 1 through 7A. Okay, first off, let's see. It was Coosa Christian. Because they had to forfeit 4 games earlier in the year. They're now 7-5 on the year. They beat Lynn 28-6. Very good defensive football team. That head hung tough. They were down 19-18 in the fourth quarter to Hackleburg, but late in the ball game, things kind of didn't bounce their way, and Hackleburg ended up beating them 33-18. So that moves Hackleburg on to the next round. Pickens County, it seems like they're always in the 1A playoffs this time of year. They beat Winterboro 32-23, and the team to watch out for. And this team is very good. They run the wishbone. They've got tons of speed, and they have been mashing people. Wadley, they beat a very good South Lamar team, 81-27. So Wadley scored points on everybody. They're a great team. So this week,
is that the traditional traditional option Wadley's running, like back in the Nebraska option?
I just know they run the wishbone, and they're going to run right at you with speed.
Right.
That's the only real thing I got told by somebody. Now, if they read it, I don't know how they do things, but I just know they run the wishbone, and they've got tons of speed. Wadley's always got speed.
I will find out about that one.
Yeah, they're now 11-1 on the year, but Wadley will be at Pickens County, which is in Reform, which is not far from Tuscaloosa, and then Hackleburg will make the trip down to Gadsden, where they'll take on Coosa Christian, and that should be a pretty good game. And but I feel like Coosa Christian's got a good golden opportunity to win that one. In Class 2A, it was Tuscaloosa Academy, who we've talked about, plays Pisgah. They beat Southeastern 38-6. Of course, Pisgah beat Tanner 66-38. Fife raced out to a big lead and won over Lexington 57-24. Locust Fort, they remain undefeated as they knocked off Sulligent. And Sulligent's got a great team. Sulligent, was very good in Class 2A, but Locust Fort jumped on them early, 33-0, and beat them 54-21. So this week, of course, Tuscaloosa Academy plays at Pisgah, and Fife will host Locust Fort. Fife 12-0 or 11-1. Locust Fort 12-0. That's going to be a dandy football game. This Locust Fort team, they've got a very good quarterback and a good running back. Of course, you've got Logan Anderson for Fife, who's an outstanding player. This is going to be a great matchup in Class 2A.
That's one of those
3A,
ones you just want to see. Yeah, that'd be a good one to go just be a fan and watch.
Oh, yeah. You won't be able to get nowhere near the fence. That's one of them I tell everybody. Yeah, it'd be nice to see it, but you couldn't get in the door.
Yeah.
You you better have somebody save you a seat somewhere. Of course, in Class 3A, you talked about it. Geraldine, they beat Gordo 42-34. This is a back-and-forth game, a huge win for the Geraldine Bulldogs. Lauderdale County, they struggled but scored late to beat Piedmont 35-30. To move on to the next round, Lauderdale County is undefeated. They will host Geraldine next week. Geraldine will have to hit the road again. They will have to go to Rogersville and take on Lauderdale County, but that'll be a great matchup. Of course, Sylvania has to hit the road this week. Of course, Aiden Parham rushed for 210 yards and scored 3 touchdowns as Sylvania beat Winfield 35-10. Madison Academy, who's unbeaten, they beat Mars Hill, who Mars Hill was one time was the number 1 team in Class 3A, but they lost to Lauderdale County. And then Madison Academy beat them. In this game, Mars Hill was driving for a late touchdown, but fumbled inside the 10-yard line and fell to Madison Academy 21-14. So I guess Madison Academy is back.
Though whoever wins those 2 games, you got to feel like in the north side of the state, that's going to be for the power. You've got 4 really good football teams matched up there.
Oh, you definitely. That is for certain. And I couldn't comfortably pick any one of those games. Of course, last week was the same way. I felt pretty good about Sylvania winning, but I had no clue in the Lauderdale County, Piedmont, Madison Academy, Mars Hill, and Gordo and Geraldine. I had no clue. I felt good about Sylvania, but the rest of them was great games, and it's going to be that way this week too. It's so competitive in Class 3A, probably as competitive as any class.
And we're moving for the holidays and some people having earlier Thanksgiving. We're going to move the Tyler Van show to Wednesday night, Phil. So you can hear Coach Van will be on here and discuss that big matchup with Madison Academy at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night here on River City Media.
Yeah, it is a wild week. You've got that right for sure. Moving on, we'll go to Class 4A. Brooks beat Priceville 70-42. Westminster beat Deschler 39-35. West Morgan remained undefeated. They beat Corner 35-14. And Cherokee County won again. They beat Haleyville 49-14 as they continue to play very well. Cherokee County lost that game to Fort Payne, but I think it kind of rides the ship for them a little bit. We talked to their coach after the game, and he talked about that might have been one he'd hate to lose, but it woke the kids up just a little bit. And, sometimes you need to lose one so that the coaches can get your attention again. Because sometimes things go a little bit too easy. You get complacent. You don't focus on the little things that become important. But then when somebody smacks you in the mouth, it makes you, sit back, look in the mirror, and change things a little bit. Because if you keep doing things the way you're going to do, you're going to get beat again.
That's it.
Yeah. So, but this week, Cherokee County, they'll hit the road again, or hit the road this week. They'll go to Corner. And, of course, Westminster, they will go on the road. They will play at Brooks. But I feel like this West Morgan, Cherokee County winner is probably going to be in their state championship game. I just think West Morgan and Cherokee County, we focused on this all year, that these were probably the two best teams in North Alabama in Class 4A. We're going to find out. But I just feel like these two, the winner of this game, may be playing for a state championship, or should be, I would think. In Class 5A, it was Ramsey beat Leeds 42-7. Moody beat Russellville 42-21. Gunners will come from behind against John Carroll. They were down 10-0 at the half, got 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns, and beat John Carroll 20-17 down in Birmingham. And it's tough for teams to win in Birmingham because the schools down there are so elite. And then, of course, Pleasant Grove from Birmingham, they beat Boaz 49-7. And we've talked about this all year. Ramsey and Pleasant Grove, they're the two top teams in Class 5A North. If you're going to win a state championship, you got to go through those two schools. This week, Ramsey travels to Moody. Moody's a very talented team, but are they on their level with Ramsey? Who knows? And then Gunnersville, they've got a tough task, but at least they get to play at Chorba-Lee Stadium. Pleasant Grove comes in to Gunnersville. Arab had a chance to beat Pleasant Grove last year. And just like Gunnersville's coach told us, he said, yes, it's going to be a tall order for us. He said, but that's why you play the game. If you execute, play your best, you never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely true. And, those are all, when you were reading that, I'm like, those are all great football teams.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there has been some good ones. And pretty much the favorites have won. Not very many surprises. The traditionally strong schools have held serve so far this year. Class 6A, Parker beat Oxford 21-14. Gadsden City, they lost to Hartselle earlier in the year, but got a little revenge as they got to play Hartselle at home this time. They lost 31-28 at Hartselle. They beat them at home this time, scoring a fourth-quarter touchdown to win 22-15. It was Muscle Shoals. They beat Fort Payne. Fort Payne was up 7-6 at halftime, and then Muscle Shoals scored a touchdown to go up 13-7. And then Fort Payne got a field goal, but then after that, the wheels kind of run off for Fort Payne. The talent level of the speed of Muscle Shoals kind of took over, and they beat Fort Payne 41-10. Clay Chalkville, who's the number 1 ranked team in Class 6A, they struggled with Mountain Brook, but scored in the fourth quarter to win 17-13. So that means that Parker will host Gadsden City in the quarterfinal round and in the north part of the bracket. And then Muscle Shoals, they will be at home, and they will get to take on top-ranked Clay County. And that should be a great matchup. Of course, in Class 7A, they're already to the semifinals. Hewitt-Trussville beat Hoover 40-7. Thompson went over Vestavia Hills 34-14. Southern part of the bracket, Central of Phoenix City beat Auburn 49-21. Mary Montgomery, who just about two or three seasons ago, I think, were 0-10, but they've turned this program around. They beat Enterprise 13-10. They're undefeated. They will play at Phoenix City in the semifinals in Class 7A. And then in Class 7A in the north, Hewitt-Trussville has to make the trip down to Thompson. Thompson, who's been very good the last several years. They knocked out Vestavia Hills. Vestavia Hills, one of their defensive linemen is a Tennessee commit.
Yes.
But Thompson, the top-ranked, one of the top-ranked team in Class 7A, won that game 34-14.
Not only a commit, a 5-star, one of the top 20 players in America.
Yeah, he is a very good. I hadn't heard a whole lot about him because you hear about the Thompsons and the Hewitt-Trustvilles, but you don't hear much about Vestavia Hills because they're on kind of the southern side of Birmingham, so you don't get a whole lot out of them.
Well, Phil, What games are you looking forward to?
Well, of course, in that 5 game, the center game, the Sylvania game, and the Pisgah game. The thing is about around here, of course, Coosa too. This year, we've got a lot of teams from our coverage area. Of course, we cover all of, basically North Alabama, but in this northeast corner that we really concentrate on, we've got some good representatives in just about every classification. I think, you got 1 in 6A, which is Gadsden City, 1 in 5A, which is Gunnersville, 1 in 4A, which is Cherokee County, and then of course you've got Sylvania and Geraldine. Then you got Fife and Pisgah. Then you've got Coosa. So we got a lot of representatives around their area, and hopefully we can get some of them into that semifinal round.
Phil, I've thought about slipping out and going over to Madison Academy to watch Sylvania. I've also thought about slipping up to Oliver Springs and watching South Pittsburgh. But, Friday night, I think I'm going to beautiful Cleveland, Tennessee, and see Boo Carter and Marcus Gore and Bradley Central. I want to see Boo Carter. I hear comparisons to, on the defensive side to Eric Berry and a very highly rated 4-star. And I think I'm going to slip up there and watch Oakland and Bradley Central Friday night.
Yeah, that'd be fun to watch. But I'm going to tell you the way I am. I'm studio doing now. I like to do basketball. I'm studio driven, so if the school's not playing in a dome, I'm probably not going to go.
Yeah, well,
I'm going to work my way through, listen to it on the radio, wave as I go by, because I'll go by Fife when they're playing, and I'll go by Geraldine. Of course, Geraldine will be on the road, but I'll go by those schools, that are represented on Friday night. But more than likely, I'm going to stay in the warmth. I've gotten older, and that cold weather just don't like me very well.
Well, first thing I'm going to do is check the weather for Friday night on about Thursday. Right now it looks good, but we'll find out. So I'm looking forward to it, and for sure, I want to invite everybody up Thursday, November the 30th, 7 p.m., Finley Stadium, the Battle of Chattanooga. Macaulay and Baylor. I cannot tell you how excited I am. And Phil, they've got 13 days to get ready.
Yeah. That's going to be interesting to see. And of course, it was a close game the last time.
Yeah,
classic matchup, and I'm sure it's going to be the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll catch up. I don't know who we're going to have next week. I guess we'll wait and see who wins.
We'll probably get somebody lined up at the last second. I'm sure.
Yeah, and of course, my friend Tyler Van's got a heck of a job. Madison Academy, I'm still, they're probably still reeling from what happened last year in that last second touchdown that Sylvania scored to move on to the semis. But Phil, there's a possibility we could have Geraldine Sylvania.
Yeah, and in that case, it would be at Sylvania. Yeah, Geraldine would have to travel 3 weeks in a row.
Yes. So that's that's a monster task, but sure would be fun to have that game.
Oh yeah, definitely. So and you also have that opportunity to have Fife against Pisgah once again, and that would be at Fife.
Yeah, and Geraldine was a really banged up football team when they played Sylvania the first time.
Oh yeah, they're playing on all cylinders now. They and I think the good thing, the strong suit of that team too is I think they have about 12 seniors on that team, and that's what's driven that team to this point so far.
Yeah. Well, Phil, it's been a fun run. We got a couple more weeks here, and then I think we're going to head off into the world of college basketball in about 3 weeks, and maybe bring some high school basketball. And we've got our first guest for our basketball show lined up, and that will be Roy Pankey, the head of the AAU Chattanooga area program. He'll be here our first week after the state championships have played their courses.
Yeah, well, that'll be nice to see. Of course, the Vols won today over Syracuse in that Maui tournament, and they'll get number 2 ranked Purdue tomorrow. And, Tennessee had 2 starters on the bench most of the game.
Yes.
So, they played without 2 key players and still beat Syracuse. Of course, they wore Syracuse down, beat them about 17, I think. But they had 2 key players on the bench and just about the entire second half.
And I haven't seen the line. I know Purdue is number 2 on a neutral court. I'm not sure what that line's. Yeah, 100%, Phil. We just dropped there for a second, our sound, but it was great to have that analysis. But I want to go ahead and thank, we're going to wrap it up tonight, but I do want to thank the Pisgah community. They've become very active on RiverCity-Media. We've always had our Sylvania crowd. We've always had a Plainview following. We get a lot of following out of North Jackson and Scottsboro. North Jackson just being so close to my home base out of Dunlap. But it's nice to see these programs. Valley Head's got a good little following. It's nice to have to see the banners start between those schools now. And we will be here on RiverCity-Media throughout the playoffs and next year. And for the foreseeable future, this high school football means a lot to both of us. So thank you, Pisgah folks. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you're the star. That's the reason they tuned in, I guess. That's all I can figure. Somebody's been listening to somebody anyway, which is good. But, everybody's interested in athletics this time of year. They get a little taste of it anytime they like it because, the playoffs is so fun. Football's winding down. You kind of get tired of it, but the playoffs kind of keep you a little bit excited.
Well, I'll tell you who the star is. Every time we have a coach on here, that's the star of this program. And we've had some great ones on here. And you know what? I love just sitting here listening to them talk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And most of them likes to, and they like to talk about other things in the game and the game that they just played or the game coming up. So, they like to talk about other things. That's why, I try to ask them a lot of questions like that, try to challenge them in other ways. Especially where it leads into talking about the kids or the community, or the guys that are behind the scenes that makes things happen that you kind of forget about.
Well, this is my last story, and we'll call it a night. Coach Tyler Van has not had a personal foul all year, and every time he did last year, we brought Hannah Van on to talk to him about it. So Hannah's not appeared all year, so maybe we're doing some good. Phil, over here on the RiverCity-Media. She only was on one time last year. So
well, the only thing is, now you get this time, it gets a little more intense.
Yeah. If he got one now, we probably wouldn't bring Hannah on. So,
and there's one thing you can't accuse Tyler Van of, and that's not having intensity.
Woo, Lord, no. We got a pick 'em contest going on, and that's about to. I don't even want to play him in pick 'em, Phil.
Yeah. You don't want to play him in chess.
No, tiddlywinks, checkers, anything. Yeah. That man is.
He's probably one of them. He's probably one of them. If you're beating him at chess, he's going to rip the board up and carry it home with him. I'm taking my football and going home.
Yeah, he's a great young. And I said I was getting off here, but Luke Pruitt, Tyler Van, great minds of the future of North Alabama football.
Yeah, well, you got some good around here. Coach Hammond down here at Valley Head, Coach Elmore at Fort Wayne. They're going to be around about Coach Davis at Geraldine. If somebody don't gobble these guys up and send them to bigger jobs, we've got some great coaches around here. I can remember about 2 years ago, we had like 8 of the 16 schools had new coaches. And we were just like scratching our head. Where's the future of football going? But all of a sudden, coaches are settling in. We've had some guys that's been in positions for 4 or 5 years now, and it makes for some better football and I think it's helped the area. And I know that's helped out here in this area because we had too many one and done and two and done coaches, and programs were struggling.
Yeah.
If the kids can't trust the people who are teaching them and teaching the coaches, and the coaches let them down, then they're not going to play. You have to have trust. That's the first thing you have to build when you're a high school football coach is trust. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, for Phil Harris, for Randall Cunningham, we were going to jump on and do a 60-minute show, and it's went an hour and 5 minutes. So I guess we'll call it a day. You're listening to Beyond the Booth, your weekly high school football magazine. And we appreciate it. God bless, and we'll catch you down the road.